Good morning, students. Welcome back. This video is for class 7 biology. Subject is biology. Today we are going to start the second chapter, that is animal tissues. Now children, in our earlier session we have already discussed what is a tissue. Now we are in a position that we can differentiate between a cell and the tissues. Then we can understand what is the function of tissues, what are the depending upon the different structure and function, how tissues can be classified. In plant we have discussed already. Today the part that we are going to discuss is animal tissues. Now before doing that, children, we have to understand that in plant they perform some basic operation like conduction of water, respiration, then production of food by the process of photosynthesis, and then the food that is produced, conduction of that food to different parts of the plant. But in animals and in other living organisms, so what happens there? Their system demands some complex functions like digestion, respiration, then circulatory systems. There are many other processes, complex processes that are going on in the animal body. In order to fulfill this demand, the structurally and functionally, their tissue structure has to be a little bit complicated. So today our part of discussion is this animal tissues and their structures, their functions. Okay? So let's start with that. See children, in animal, depending upon the types of cell alignments, then the intercellular spaces between them, and mainly the function, that means structurally and functionally, again see here the animal tissues can be divided into 4 categories. As you can see here, one is the epithelial tissues, another is the muscular tissue, nervous tissue, and connective tissue. Okay, we will get into the details of each of this type of tissues. Coming to the first one, that is the epithelial tissue. Now students, here you can see like this is the structure of an epithelial tissue. Okay, what is this epithelial tissue? First, discussing the structure, first let's comes to the function of it. Okay, where it is found. Suppose when we are standing in front of a mirror, what we can see? We can actually see the covering of our body. This covering of our body, or the epidermis, outer epidermis, is nothing but the epithelial tissue layers or the epithelial layers of cells. This epithelial tissue, actually, you can see here I have made some few points which will help you to understand. Now this epithelial tissue mainly goes to form the outer covering of our body, as well as there are many internal organs in our body to perform different complex function. This epithelial tissues also forms an inner linings of all those organs. Why? Because see, there are different organs to perform different functions. These epithelial layers, which goes to form a lining for each organs, internal organs, it forms a barrier so that these different organs they can function independently without any interference between them. Okay, like we can find this in the kidney tubules, lungs, heart, then obviously the outer covering of our skin, that is the epidermis. All these are composed of epithelial tissues. Now coming to the types of epithelial tissues. Again, see here children, depending upon, means based on how they look like and how many layers are there. This part is not included in your book, but for your reference, for your knowledge, I am discussing this part also. It will help you to understand few areas in your book. Like, depending upon how they look like and how many layers are there, this epithelial tissue can be further divided into three types. We will discuss first the how they look. Based on this, one is the squamous epithelium, another is the cuboidal epithelium, another is the columnar epithelium. This last two can be easily made out from the name. One is cuboidal and one is columnar. But this sounds very peculiar, isn't it? The squamous epithelium. Children, the squamous epithelium is derived from the Latin word that is squama. S-Q-U-A-M-A, squama. See here? This word squama means scales of fish or a serpent. This is because these epithelial tissues, the squamous epithelial tissues, exactly they look like scales of fish. They are usually flat, irregular shaped, having the looks of scales of fish, and they basically goes to form the outer covering of our epidermis. That is the main function of this squamous epithelium. Okay. Coming here to the structure of this squamous epithelium, you see here this part. Here, the cells are a continuous. This epithelial tissues are a continuous layer of cells. You see the cells do not have any intercellular space between them. There is one large prominent nucleus in the center. Okay, so this layer of cells, this squamous epithelium, goes to form the outer covering of our body. It is also found in the inner linings of our mouth, in the inner linings of esophagus, then lungs, hearts, in the inner linings of the blood vessels. In all these different places, we get to see this type of squamous epithelium. Fine. Now, coming to the next part, that is how many layers. Children, you see, it is quite obvious that a single layer of squamous epithelial tissues cannot give that hard protection to our body from the wear and tear of our nature. So, in that case, a number of layers of these cells goes to actually form the outer epidermis of our body. Like I can show you here, this you see, this is a single layer of our squamous epithelial tissues, as it is shown here. Okay, and when a number of such layers piled up together, this single layer is known as simple squamous epithelium, and this, when a number of layers are piled up together to form a protective structure, that is known as stratified. Here is the name, stratified squamous epithelium. Okay, our skin is made up of this stratified squamous epithelium. As you can see here in your book, there is mention multi-layered. This is the same meaning as that. That means a number of such squamous epithelium actually goes to form the outer covering of our body, and this happens mainly because to withstand the wear and tear of nature. Fine. So up to this, I think it is clear to you what is a squamous epithelium or squamous epithelial tissues. So in our next part, we are going to discuss columnar epithelium and the cuboidal epithelium, and the different functions of epithelium we are also going to discuss. Follow me.